Welcome to Fast Politics, Will Selmer.
Thanks for having me.
Talk us through the splintering of MAGA as it relates to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Trump movement right now is at a really kind of fractured moment. They're coming off of this difficult election cycle. There's all this kind of negative stuff going on. There's a lot of fighting over Charlie Kirk's legacy, but the biggest thing right now is Epstein. And so you have someone. This is kind of represented by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was sort of the ultimate Trump fan. I mean, she was a QAnon believer, which positions Trump as like a messianic figure who's going to save the world from child sex trafficking demons. And now instead they're fighting each other. And so I think what's going on here is that, you have this disappointment that Trump won't release the Epstein files. You also have this kind of pervasive and growing sense in MAGA, I think, that Trump isn't going to do the populist stuff they wanted, that he's palling around with rich people and tech billionaires and sort of throwing the average MAGA person under the bus. Another issue for Marjorie Taylor Greene obviously has been the expiration of the Obamacare subsidy. So you're seeing this kind of like Bannonite populist wing that she represents get a little fed up with Trump.
Is it the financial or is it the political?
I think it's a couple things. I think on one hand, I think she has kind of personal grievances against Trump. He reportedly told her, don't run for Senate in Georgia, don't run for governor, you're too crazy, essentially, which was probably a pretty reasonable calculus to make. But I think as a result, it's made her feel kind of like she's stuck in this role, this kind of backbencher role, and that she's not getting any respect from the White House. And then also, I think she has this ideology. I think she is a hardcore MAGA person at heart, and she's seeing the movement kind of led astray by Trump. And I think that's what is making her fed up.
I wonder if you could say more about that, because that's not necessarily true for Lauren Boebert or Nancy Mace, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think each of these each of these lawmakers is bringing sort of a unique thing to why they backed the discharge petition. I mean, in Nancy Mace's case, she has claimed that she had this own kind of the tortured situation as a sexual abuse victim. I mean, there are a lot of lawsuits flying around against it. The Daily Mail wrote an article. She
Right.
claims it
Isn't her
involves her.
boyfriend suing her?
Yeah, her
Her
ex-fiance
ex-fiance?
and some of his friends. I mean, he claims that she accused him of sexual assault. I mean, this was crazy. She did this whole speech on the House floor alleging that her ex-fiance and his friends were involved in this like really sinister, sexual abuse ring. And
And
because she said it.
it's worth mentioning just that if you say things on the House floor, you're protected to a certain extent. And that's what the Epstein survivors keep talking about, right?
Exactly. And so because she's saying it from the House floor, they couldn't sue her over it. He says, on the other hand, that, this was all kind of a scheme as they were fighting over real estate that they had jointly owned. So that is what she's bringing to the table. And also, I think I mean, to be frank, I don't think it's unfair to say Nancy Mace is known for loving attention. So I think that's probably what's bringing her to it. Lauren Boebert, I think, is a bit more of a cipher. She's a bit of a renegade in a sort of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace way, but it is a little unclear, I think, why she backed the discharge petition. I mean, certainly, I would say certainly the White House, I think, saw her as sort of the weakest link. I mean, they were the ones, they brought her into the Situation Room, had all
Right.
these
That's
top
what I
Trump
was going to
officials.
say. Like, she resisted what was pretty scary, right? They brought her into the Situation Room.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, that's a sign that Trump's grip on the party is weakening even a little bit. This is not a Thomas Massey or like a John McCain figure in Lauren Boebert, who's sort of a notorious maverick politically. But I think, the fact that she's saying, well, maybe I want a little distance from Trump, maybe I will back this petition, I think is really telling about MAGA's direction right now.
But this actually does feel like very different, this fracturing. So you have really, like, you've chronicled MAGA. So tell us why you think this is different or why you don't.
I mean, I think this is sort of a unique moment that Trump is facing. I mean, the Epstein thing is the biggest issue he's facing that's going on right now. And that's in part because it is in the world of right-wing media, in the Trump administration, they had acted like this was a really big thing. I mean, just to list one example, we all remember when Pam Bondi, gave Jack Posobiec and all these other MAGA characters the binders. I mean, they were saying Epstein files matter a lot. And so then suddenly to make that U-turn, I mean, that sticks with the audience that Trump is courting. On the other hand, I think he's facing some other issues too. I mean, they had a crummy run in the gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey. And so I think that is making some Republicans nervous about the midterms. There's a lot of just general kind of malaise about affordability. And then also I think that just the vibe in the MAGA, the Trump world is kind of off right now. There's a lot of feuding. I think there's a lot of clashing after Charlie Kirk's assassination over, his legacy and these conspiracy theories Candace Owens is pushing. We saw Tucker Carlson kind of welcoming Nick Fuentes into the tent, and that's creating a lot of drama at places like the Heritage Foundation. So I think the GOP is just taking a lot of bad beats lately, and the Epstein one is the biggest.
Can you talk about this Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes thing? Because I actually think it has huge implications. Even though it seems like it's niche, it's actually not.
Yeah, I mean, and you can tell because a lot of really prominent people on the right are taking this very seriously. So Nick Fuentes, white nationalist podcaster, marched in Charlottesville, really prominent voice, essentially in the neo-Nazi movement, and he has been growing in popularity. He was kind of Charlie Kirk's arch enemy, but after the assassination, he's been gaining a lot of profile himself. Tucker Carlson had clashed with him before, but seems to have said, you know what, I'm better off being friends with this guy or being neutral on him than fighting with him because he has so much energy behind him among young Republicans. And so Tucker Carlson had a very friendly interview with him, and that angered a lot of more traditional Republicans because they said, maybe we don't invite the neo-Nazi into the tent and act like this is sort of an appropriate faction within Trumpism. And then this kind of echoed out in various ways, most prominently at the Heritage Foundation, which had sponsored Carlson's show. Then put out this video saying, hey, we are sticking with Tucker. We think he's great, and was very critical of people who were mad about the interview. And they kind of got embroiled in this morass. A lot of people resigned. So you can tell basically it's a fight about both Israel and anti-Semitism more broadly. And is that going to be okay or even respectable at all within the party?
Yeah, and that seems like a very big deal for any number of reasons, but I think the biggest of which is that Israel has been such a big part of Donald Trump's second inauguration, second run for office. Netanyahu is like Trump's bestie. And also, so many people, in the small world that I live in, so many people, the pro Israel group has become like the biggest Trumpers. So the idea that somehow the Republican Party could tip into anti Semitism seems like it could really alienate the base.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think a lot of kind of more respectable or maybe more savvy Republicans are kind of tearing their hair out over this because they're saying, we can't have a situation where Nick Fuentes, a guy who has said, among other things, that Hitler is really cool, we can't have this guy being seen as a guy we're okay with. But at the same time, you're seeing JD Vance and even Trump a few days ago say, well, let's have this debate. We're not going to be mad at Tucker for hosting Nick Fuentes. For, by the way, it was not really a debate. It was sort of a hangout with Nick Fuentes
Right.
that gave him
And
a much bigger
also,
platform.
Trump did, in fact, hang out with Nick Fuentes himself at Mar-a-Lago,
Right.
right? Isn't
That's a
that
good
that dinner
point.
with Kanye?
Yeah, and so that is kind of what the kind of the funny aspect of all of this kind of agita and this rending of garments over the Nick Fuentes thing is that Trump, like the king of the MAGA movement, dined with him
Right,
several years ago. And so
right.
for people at Heritage to say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we've now invited Nick Fuentes in," Trump kind of already did that. And the other thing is that, a lot of this stuff is already shot through with racism. I mean, Ben
Right.
Shapiro has been a big voice opposing Nick Fuentes. Ben Shapiro's Jewish, big supporter of Israel. On the other hand, Ben Shapiro's company ran a whole pardon Derek Chauvin campaign. And so like the idea that like, these are like the wokies or like the non-racist members of the right-wing media, I think is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about this piece he wrote, which I think is really so interesting. We don't want to be conspiratorial, but it is odd that we have not seen any answers to this. This is this story of the pipe bombs. So, talk us through these two pipe bombs found at around January 6th at the RNC and the DNC, a mystery never solved. Well, the Blaze thought they solved it. Did they solve it?
I don't think so. So this is this is Glenn Beck's. If I was in the FBI, I would not be putting cuffs on this person at the moment. So this is Glenn Beck's outfit, although he's since left. And the pipe bomber case is really important to the right because they think because the suspect was never identified, they think maybe it was an FBI plot or a CIA plot, and that it sort of ratcheted up tensions on the morning of January 6th because in their point of view, Capitol Police kind of caused the riot by not liking it when Trump supporters tried to break into Congress. And so they're like, if we could just
That's
find
a
this pipe
pretty
bomber.
It's a pretty big reach. Anyway, go on, yes.
Of course. And so the Blaze came out with this story saying, Glenn Beck and the writer of the story said, this is going to be like the biggest American political scandal in history. They were so convinced, and they said this former Capitol Police officer, this woman, and they said her name, and she since has joined the CIA. And we analyzed the gait, so the way that the pipe bomber in the surveillance video walked, and the way that she walked when she was playing a college soccer match, and with they're nearly a match, and so it's probable that she was the pipe bomber. Now, this
Insane.
story has fallen apart almost instantly. I mean, it was a huge hit on the right. They said, we got it, we proved it. Members of Congress tweeted about it, Anna Paulina Luna, and since then they've said, well, maybe not. And this Capitol Police officer has lawyered up, and I think the Blaze has a big defamation case in its future.
Wow. And it's funny because like we've seen these MAGA media outlets try to solve crimes, and they've really shown how important real reporting is.
It is crazy. I mean, with all of these, I kind of approach it with an open mind and think, well, I don't know, maybe, it is odd
Right.
that they still haven't caught the pipe bombing suspect. And then you kind of poke it just a little bit, and it does tend to fall apart.
It actually is a lot harder than you think.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, this pipe bomb thing has been very frustrating because for the right, because they were convinced the FBI was covering it up. Dan Bongino said before he became deputy FBI director, he said they know who it is. They just don't want to reveal the name. And then he gets in office, and they had to put out new video just a few weeks ago saying like, okay, we can't find this person. Can you help us? Demonstrating that Chris Wray was not covering it up. They couldn't find this person either.
How much of the stuff that we're seeing now, the Cash Patel and Pam Bondi, the answers that they can't deliver are really because there was no there.
I mean, I think a lot of it. I mean, I think we're seeing this over and over. I mean, this idea that, to take the broadest point of view, I mean, they were convinced that there was this whole deep state plot against Trump. Okay, well, now we're finally there. What are they doing? Well, they're going to investigate Comey on maybe lying to Congress, and that looks like it's on the verge of getting thrown out. I mean,
Right.
these are actually turning to be very shaky situations. And the thing I would direct people to is the situation in Florida where the grand jury is investigating all of these people in the government who investigated Trump under the idea that it was one giant conspiracy theory, from the Steele dossier to the Mar-a-Lago raid. They call it the Grand Conspiracy. And so that is going to be kind of, I think, their latest stab at arresting everyone they don't like.
Yeah, I feel like that's not gonna work in the way that they think it will. Um, do
Yeah.
you think I want you to talk for just one more minute about this? Because like, now we have these Epstein files. You know quite a lot about this, as do I, unfortunately for us, because we spent the last decade mired in this. There are all these documents, there are videos, there's this, there's that. What are you sort of watching? How do you think they are gonna handle it? It's just hard for me to imagine, like, that Trump lets this stuff get out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that Trump has made this about face is in part because they probably have another idea for how they can keep the documents from coming out. On the other hand, the legislation says the files have to come out within 30 days of the legislation passing, I believe. And so now it's law. And so there's gonna be a court battle over it. For me, I think my big question is what is gonna go on with these documents that mention Trump's name, because we have FBI whistleblowers who have said they were told to flag those documents. Whenever Pam Bondi and Cash Patel are in front of Congress, they stonewall about what happened to those documents. So I think it's going to be really hard to believe, even if, let's say today, Trump just showed up with boxes and said, here you go, here are the documents. It's going to be hard for people to know that that's all of the documents.
And there's so much material. We already know that there's tens of thousands of videos and pages and this and that and photographs. Will Sommer, will you please come back?
Oh, always.